Restream, you had 2 weeks to fix that. Everything else is working. That still isn't. We may need to look elsewhere at this point if you're not going to allow us to put our graphics up. It's been 2 weeks. The wise guys are back. We're calling this Wise Guys 2.5. Michael, a little bit of a change here. Why are you in my chair?
Because we haven't moved the living room back for the way it usually goes from when you were here.
Oh, the last
And
time the last time we were with you guys, I was sitting on that couch.
in this exact spot, I'm to the extreme left on the couch. I call this the gym spot and or my gaming spot. To the right is the cushion that has the sheet on it, because that's where Bobby normally naps during the day. Although, even though he was sick for the majority of the week, we started 5 days a week of school. So we'll see how that goes moving forward. But James, it's been 2 weeks since we've seen each other, 2 weeks since we've been on, and it is about damn time that we get to 2.5.
Very, very much so. We're going to lay out the format here, but one of the things that we're going to talk about, off the top here, the first 5 minutes are just going to be the week's, pleasantries. This is actually going to be, maybe we'll extend it to 10 minutes tonight. We'll kind of talk about the trip and everything, how all that went. You guys know that, everything kind of fell through the day of, with the parking situation. Um, we got a great selfie on the when you dropped me off um at the Savannah airport, which was gorgeous, although nothing was open. I mean,
And I
my
got to tell you,
Burger King that night.
it's easy in, easy out, that joint.
Yeah, very much.
And
Well, it's 14 gates and one terminal. I could walk from one end of the. I was through security with bag check and everything in 5 minutes. Maybe not even that long.
that's phenomenal.
There was one person in front of me.
So I got to tell you, I think I told you this on the phone. As you're getting in the door and I'm getting back in the car, you hear on the tannoy above you, the white zone is for the loading and unloading of
Yep,
passengers only.
yep.
There's no parking in the white zone. I had to stop the car. I was laughing so hard. For those of
Considering
you watching and don't know what that is the beginning of the movie Airplane. So as I'm leaving the Savannah airport parking lot, I am laughing and I tell the car to call my father. And he goes, "What's so funny?" And I tell him, and you would think this man had just heard it for the first time in his life.
and to think that it took, I touched down and it what had to be a good 30-40 minutes before we finally figured out where the other one was, because the two, when you picked me up when I touched down on the 26th.
Yeah. So Jim didn't have to go to bag check, so he didn't go down all the way to the basement, and that's where the arrival thing is. So I'm like circling around half of freaking Pooler/Savannah, Georgia, um, trying to figure out how to get back to him. And finally, he comes out. He goes, "Oh yeah, I'm here."
But
Yo, those people are outside again.
again.
The loud ones, yeah.
Yeah, but at least this way you guys are upstairs and may not hear it as well.
I hope not, because he finally fell asleep, and they wake him up. I'm afraid I'm gonna have to hold Mama back. So yeah, it got off to a little bit of an inauspicious start, but and again, it's a straight. You saw that it's a straight shot up 95. It literally off the exit, and you're right there.
Yeah.
So we're gonna tell people now, don't bother going to Jacksonville. Go into Savannah. It's a lot easier to get in and out. Even like my mother-in-law, who we have to actually stop and see, or stop and get out and get. We can go to the cell phone lot and walk in. It's going to be a lot easier for people to get in and out by going to Savannah. So good call on that, by the way.
And it's saved a ton of money having to jump a second, airline altogether to get into Brunswick. It's and Dallas, I liked what it the airport. It was, even though I had a cup of coffee there, by the time I touched down, it was I got there, I figured I was going to have a 2.5 hour layover. grab some food. Never actually happened because in Cleveland, all the terminals are connected. So literally, I could actually whip all the way around and then be connected to all the other ones. That's not the case in Dallas. Where I flew into in Terminal C, the only thing you could access was Terminal C, and I had such a taste for Popeyes, and there was no Popeyes in Terminal C. I would have had to take the shuttle to go to A to get Popeyes, and then actually jump on the shuttle to come all the way back around, which was never going to happen.
No, not in the limited amount of time you had. Now, fast forward 24 hours and you got something a little better than Popeyes.
Memories.
The one lady in my office, she gets it like twice a week. And every time the DoorDasher gets there, I start laughing.
Well, and I hope you appreciated the text that you got last week.
That was hysterical.
So Jim fell in love with Zaxby's.
I think Jim was looking more forward to getting Zaxby's than he was to seeing us. Chris Everett.
You notice how one end hasn't toppled over. It's teetering.
I know. It's like you got a slinky in your hand, dude.
You can't tell me that you did that one of your favorite parts of the entire trip was not the garlic parm fries.
Oh my God.
The
chicken. No, yes. Oh no, they were
fries.
Outstanding. I still talk about them now. I talked her into getting them. I was like, listen, chicken parm fries, legit. And she goes, really? I said, yeah, trust me. I said, let me give you 2 pieces of advice in your life. If you ever ask a baseball question of a Puerto Rican, you're going to get the right answer. And always trust the fat kid when it comes to food. I cover both bases well.
And yet the paisano did not get the chicken parm fries. But I was
that's because you were itching for a sandwich.
I went full fat kid mode because
ain't nothing wrong with it.
Shit, the hell! After I get out of here tonight, it's Raising Cane's is open till 2.
I'll have to try that next time I'm in town.
It just wasn't the same. But on a pinch, 4 big chicken fingers. They're Thousand Island types, seasoned sauce, crinkle fries, coleslaw, and a drink for $10. I ain't gonna argue.
Whoa, wait, that's $10.
Yeah, like tax and everything, it was just shy of 11.
That ain't bad.
My lunch there is going to be, that's their box combo, and I get a free one tomorrow because I never actually signed up for their reward club. So you activate the reward club after 2 days, you get a free box lunch or box combo or whatever they call it. So at least this way now I know I got food for the Browns game tomorrow.
There are no other apps that I know of that do that crap. That's amazing.
Yeah, it's saved me from having to go to I almost was going to say Chick-fil-A, but we all know that that's never going to happen on a Sunday.
That's because they're closed,
right? And I won't eat there again.
And by the way, I meant to tell you, I don't know if you saw on Facebook that I straight up asked Deshaun if he was getting a massage after the game last week.
And punt.
Listen, man, someone's like, oh, that's pretty funny. Your girl's going back there. I'm like, my girl wouldn't go anywhere near him.
Yeah, it was a C+ performance against the worst team in football. What do you think? What do you think that Baltimore? Although I will say the only thing we're going to talk NFL tonight, if that defense shows up and shows out, they could make a game of this tomorrow.
Look, I'm going to say very simply this, and then speaking of football, let's get into our first topic of the night. As we keep my eyes keep going up to what's going on in Columbus right now. This is the best Browns defense I personally have ever seen. And it brings great joy to my heart that you're looking at a year when Myles Garrett will most likely win the Defensive Player of the Year. The only one who may beat him is the dude out in the dude with the Raiders. Max something.
Yeah, it's he'll be in the conversation. I mean, at this particular point, even though they had 7 sacks and Miles only had one, he had. I mean, it was him kind of collapsing the pocket that you could have almost given him an assist on 4 other sacks.
No, and I saw that in the highlight package. Because like I said, I do watch the highlight packages. I am a little more invested this year than I was last year. But at the same time, it's definitely it's not as much as it should be for a team that's this good. But I digress. So, speaking of what's going on in Columbus,
the new format we're going to talk about. We're going to call
yeah,
this our and this will basically be our headlines, and it'll take up the first half of the show going forward, everyone. So now this is, since we've officially hit the 10-minute mark. We're going to call this the hat trick triple player, the triple play hat trick. It's a play on our two fortes with matters of three. So we're going to take 3 major topics of the week, and we'll break them down for 15 minutes apiece. We're going to actually, our primary topic is going to go 20, and then we'll actually do 15 or 10 on the other 2. We'll take a little commercial break, kind of top off our drinks, and then we'll come back, and then the last half hour of the show will be reserved for the translator and any kind of off the rails stuff or any other stories that kind of fall through the cracks that we just want to BS about here for a couple of minutes. So our first topic tonight in the triple play hat trick, Michael, take it away.
So the first topic tonight is actually the biggest news in sports right now, and that is what's going on with the University of Michigan and the sign stealing. And coming out yesterday late, the 3 games at minimum. Well, no, because they said regular season, so it is 3-game suspension of Michigan head coach Jim Harbaugh. And notice that Big Ten never said on his role in this. They literally suspended him for the same reason they were going to get Tressel back in the day: institutional control. So, Jim, I got a couple of thoughts on this, and I'm going to be as non-Buckeye fan as I can with this. Okay.
Yeah, that was my one concern is you might actually
Because
come up. I want honest analysis. I don't want
no.
talk or favoritism or anything. Let's break this down realistically here.
My last name is Martinez, not Lachey. Okay. But I will say this. Let me open this by saying this. If this was Ryan Day, fucking fire him. This isn't about color. This colors as far as a school you root for, not the other stuff when you hear that word. This is about what it is. So let me give you some numbers, okay? It's 3 sets of 2 numbers. The first one is 2 and 4. The second one is 3 and 3, and the third one is 0 and 5. And do you know what those are?
2 and 4 is his record against Ohio State.
Penn State. This is, yeah. I'll cut. I don't mean to cut you off, but I will, because I don't. You look like it hurts.
3 and 3 is Michigan State.
Yep.
And
0 and 5 was Ohio State pre-2021. He has not had a top 15 recruiting class. He has not had a major change in talent. And he has not had a major change in philosophy and or coordinators and other coaches. So you tell me how all of a sudden he's doing what he's doing. You tell me how a guy who didn't know how to make adjustments in any game he played all of a sudden is the best second half coach in the country the last 2 years. It doesn't take a rocket scientist when you lay it out that way. And you ignore. Listen, the investigation's a bunch of bullshit. The NCAA is a fucking joke. Tony Petitti had no choice but to suspend him. Because on one hand, yes, what they did was wrong. Because what no one's talking about is Connor Stallions was a volunteer in 21, and then gets elevated to a main assistant for both the offense and the defense in 22. What? Are you kidding me? It doesn't take a rocket science to figure it out. Now, I'm going to say this, and I don't like Jim Harbaugh. I don't think he knew what was going on. I honestly don't think he knew the level that this guy took it to. However, if you look at the NCAA bylaws and what they were going to get him on through the NCAA investigation is the institutional control caveat that they have on the rules, which is the only reason I wanted him suspended. Is this happened under your watch? It's the same reason Ohio State suspended Urban for the Zach Smith thing. It's the same reason they fired Tressel. Because what competitive advantage did they get for selling gold pants for fucking tattoos, Jim?
Right, but it was also a different. It was, I mean,
Different era.
It was a different era. I mean, that's technically considered. That would be no different than a booster given $100,000.
I agree with you 100%. But again, the two things we're talking about did not give a team a competitive advantage. Now, I will say this, the 2021 team, the 2021 Michigan team, that game against Ohio State, they had the best unit on the field that day, and that was that defense. They played out of their mind. Aiden Hutchinson is an absolute fucking dog. Ajabo had a huge game. They had the best unit on the field. Jim, those two teams last year were not that far apart. They weren't. And outside of Jim Knowles calling cover zero way too fucking much, Michigan ran 55 plays. On 50 of them, they gained 180 yards. On 5 of them, they gained 335. 4 of the 5 happened in the second half. 4 of the 5, J.J. McCarthy audible. That is something when Ohio State changed their coverage. Come on. It's not rocket science.
And let's kind of, it's going to be very funny when we do our preview here in 2 weeks. That this is a little bit uncharacteristic because the last 2 years, we had Ohio State with the dominant offense against Michigan with that dominant defense. Now, Michigan really seems to be one of, if not the most complete team in the country. And there's still a lot of people who are waiting on the other shoe to drop on the Ohio State offense.
And here's why. And what they're doing tonight is they're up 38-3 in the mid-third quarter. Again, it's Michigan State, but that Kyle McCord, I want to say he's only thrown 2 incompletions. Marvin Harrison already has 3 touchdowns.
Yeah, I saw the first 2 before we went on.
A reverse? Really? Ryan Day, are you starting to actually open the playbook?
Yeah,
or are you letting Heartline call plays?
It's almost like they were actually the announcer was calling down to the sideline, a la Ray Farmer, Johnny Manziel, because he actually say we need to get the ball into Marvin Harrison's hands, and sure enough, it goes to Marvin.
You know what it is? I had Paul Keels on in my ear for that little bit because I was trying to put Bobby to sleep. I didn't turn the Peacock game on until he was out for a few minutes. But it's on the TV now. Oh, by the way, no issues with streaming it tonight like we had 2 weeks ago.
Yeah, it's that was a mess. By the way, very very quick side note: Paul Keels, excellent job last week calling the Browns.
He was phenomenal on the Browns game. So now everybody talks about Michigan got a big win today in Happy Valley, and yeah, they did. How many points they score?
Yeah, but let's also keep in mind that Penn State's also got a very good defense. That Ohio State game might have been the most overrated, and we all talked about it a couple of weeks ago. The night it actually happened, I thought that was the most boring and most overhyped game of the year. But Penn State's got a phenomenal defense. For Michigan to only put up 24 in that game,
and that's what I'm talking about.
Just shows you all the holes in if Penn State had any kind of a routine offense. Penn State would have beaten Ohio State, probably would have beaten Michigan today. And then we're talking about Penn State in the top 5.
Yeah, and you're talking about Medina's own Drew Aller, who, by the way, he didn't have a bad game today. And did I say he only threw the ball 10 times? He was 7 to 10 for 70 yards, but he ran for 50-something on the ground.
Which is a lot better performance than when than the Buckeye game.
That's true. Now, I will say this. The team that scored 40-some-odd points against everybody, against their first legitimate defense, got held to 25. They took a 15-plus point per game hit And oh, by the way, Jim Harbaugh doesn't call plays. They played their first legit team. They got Maryland next week, and then of course the big one in 2 weeks when we'll see you guys Black Friday night to preview that, because I'll be ripping what little hair on my body I have out on Saturday. So Jim, I want to hear your take on this, because you again, I think I came at that from a non-Buckeye colored glass there. It doesn't make sense the way everything had rolled out until that point. You're talking about the coach who, with the number 1 ranked defense in the country and 4 dudes who were drafted in the first 70 picks in the draft, gets 60 points dropped on him in Columbus in 2018. In 2019, with a top 20 defense, gave up 50 points. In 2020, was the only school to cancel a game in the Big Ten and tweet out, "We had our best week of practice." He plays at 2020, and they were 2-4 in the COVID year, by the way. You go 2 years in a row dominating like this? Come on, Jim. Come on.
There's a part of me that it really should have I think the process moved a little bit faster than a lot of people expected here with this, but I also think it's something that as more was coming out, they had to kind of get out in front of this and say something. And you had to know that the Ohio State game was going to be part of this deal, because otherwise the Big Ten or the NC2A is going to get involved, and he could be broken off for a year. For all we know, Willie, you might be scouting your head coach with the Raiders next year at this particular point with the
Chicago
got off.
Chicago. The Bears. Watch.
Dysfunction breeds dysfunction.
But he played there. This is what I'm talking about. Same reason he went to Michigan.
I understand that, but he's so revered up there, except for the Ohio State things. He's got back-to-back conference titles. He's been to the national semifinals the last 2 years. Does Blake Corum really make that big of a difference in the backfield? Possibly, but because we've all seen how you had Mike Bell, you've had Tim Biakabatuka, you had Tyrone Wheatley. Michigan's got that history of great running backs who run and stomp Ohio State out in that
Agreed.
game. It's something that Michigan was there, and say what you want about the 2020 season. Michigan, you kind of had to know that eventually they were going to break through, and then for all of it to happen at once, there's a lot of people, certainly scratching their head on this here, but you also had to know that in more recent years, it was a lot of people are putting the focus on the Ohio State game, but you still have to look at the body of work. Michigan did play those teams. They did play the Michigan State's tough. They played the Penn State's tough. Those were not blowouts. The Ohio State game always turned into one because it was still Herb over Harbaugh, and to an extent, you still had a lot of Herb's mentality and scheme and some of his recruitment involved with the Ryan Day thing as well, with the carryover. Say what you want about it, for the first couple of years. And then
especially especially defensively, if I can just interject that.
Yes. But you had to know that eventually some of that luster was was going to, wear off a little bit. And Ohio State and Ryan Day had been playing especially really, early on in that 2021 season had been playing very, very close to the vest and playing along that razor's edge a little too much. And eventually it was something that they got bit, and they got bit bad. And then, you look at if Penn State would have actually had any kind of an offense, the Ohio State loses that game. They needed a late score to pull away from Rutgers. So it's all a matter of still, is the other shoe potentially going to drop for Ohio State? Is Michigan now finally hitting their stride? I believe that Michigan's not Michigan State, Michigan, but this game is going to determine who's going to be that fourth team in the playoff, because right now, barring a miracle, you got Georgia, you got Florida State, and you got Washington, who clinched their spot in the Pac-12 title game. But with everything going on, yeah, he could be completely absent-minded with this, but it's also something that we've actually seen in other aspects. We've seen the Patriots lose picks and fines and Belichick's been suspended. We saw it. It basically forced out Jim Boeheim. It caused Bill Self to be broken off for part of the year in college basketball. It's a lot easier to enforce this rule or this level of suspension and possibly have something swept under the coach's nose because of how many other different parts are involved in the NC2A as opposed to the pros. I'm not saying it doesn't happen, but it's a lot more. It's a lot more prominent for all the moving parts in the college game.
No, I agree with you. And like I said, I honestly don't think he knew exactly the way this kid was dissecting signs. I don't. I don't think he knew he was sending people to different games. I don't think he knew what he was doing as far as monetarily goes. But again, the suspension had to come because of institutional control. You can't have a head coach. First of all, how much money does he make? You can't make that kind of money and not be expected to have full control. You can't be handed the keys to the biggest moneymaker in American sports today that's not a professional sport and not have control. So suspending him for the institutional control, I get. The stigma around it, I get. Because now if it comes out that, because this stuff just keeps getting better and better each day as far as how deep this is going. If it comes out that he did know, you're talking about the greatest media flip of a person's reputation when it comes to coaching being nothing but tainted.
And then we're talking about, vacation and not so much the vacation that he's going to be on when the NC2A breaks him off. We're talking about vacating of wins, conference championships. The NC2A could actually force him to be fired, and that's where he's looking for that job on Sundays.
Let me say this then too. You have a head coach who has won 50 some games in his first 56, 57 in Ryan Day, who's actually on the hot seat because of this. You and I have said it for the last 2 years. If Day doesn't beat Michigan this year, there's a good chance they will look for somebody new, especially with Gene Smith retiring and a new AD coming in. I could see them trying to find a new head coach if they don't win. Now, so having said that, this could cost Ryan Day his job.
Could we actually see a scenario that, let's play a little devil's advocate here, that what if Michigan goes in, what if Ohio State goes into Ann Arbor here in 2 weeks, does not get the job done? It's not a blowout. Harbaugh's not on the sideline. Not only does Harbaugh keep his job, but he also costs Ryan Day potentially his. And then still there's a possibility that things could come out where Harbaugh could end up having to leave anyway. Could we see both for the first time in the history of this rivalry? Could we actually see both of these teams with potential new head coaches, depending on how this spirals out of control?
At the same time, it's possible. It's possible. I think we'll talk about it in 2 weeks. I'm not going to go into what I think about the game for another 2 weeks, but I want to talk about another part of this, and that is the bullshit coming out of the mouths of both Charles Woodson and fucking Desmond Howard. Because, by the way, do you want to know who my favorite take on all this has been from so far is Herbie.
Well,
And Herbie went to Ohio State.
yeah.
And Desmond's running his mouth. Meanwhile, you go back to the tweet Desmond had about Tressel. Oh, I hate when people cheat. They need to be out of the game. Shut the fuck up, Desmond. You went to VASJ. You're a Clevelander. Shut the fuck up. God, he's annoying.
Yeah. I'll give you that. I'll give
Hey,
you that.
if I give you that Homer Lachey, you can give me Desmond Howard.
That was the caveat before we went live, as we got about 90 seconds left in this segment, that Mike could have the game on in the background. He could not do commentary about it. Because it wasn't going to be much of a game. If we were going to do commentary, I would have had it on as well, like the Notre Dame game earlier this year.
Which was very smart of us to turn it off. So the last thing I'm going to say about this is this. I feel for these kids. I do, because if this is how they won their 2 games against Ohio State and they switched the mantra and they switched the narrative, Jim, that's messed up because these kids work hard. I don't agree with Stephen A. Shut the hell up, because they shouldn't be suspended from playing in the playoff. These kids have earned it. They've put the 2-a-days in the summer. They've put the spring practice in, and they've put the work in this year. So if they earn it on the field, by all means, they should play.
The aspect about that, and I'll let you get a final thought in as the timer's going to run out in this segment here. You can't basically punish the players in this aspect, because it's something that's happening on the sideline. The players are not being told on the field, this is what they're doing. They're basically getting fed in from the sideline what to do. They're not actually saying this is where you're not being told, okay, they're running, trap left. They're not running 4 wide. This is not, sideline out or anything like that. That's not what's actually happening here. So basically, the players still have to go out and execute. So, which is why I still think, regardless of what happens, you got to put the onus completely on the coaching staff, and you can take away his wins, but I still don't think you actually, and you might talk about conference championships or anything, but you definitely can't take away the rings. You can't invalidate anything that the players have done.
No, look, and the coaches go in and watch film and give their guys what to look for, and they put in what they're going to audible to if the other team audibles during the week of preparation. The kids don't know how they're getting that. They don't know their coaches are doing this.
Yeah.
So having said, I don't put the onus on the players here. I agree with you. I put the onus on the coaching staff. I agree with the suspension only because we have to do this from an institutional control level, which is where they pulled the suspension out of. And last but certainly not least, if I see one more Michigan against everybody t-shirt, I'm gonna slap the shit out of somebody, because it's Ohio against the world. Shut the fuck up.
Last thought before we move on here on this topic. With what actually could we actually see something where this could be coming where this could even be institutional control going even above Harbaugh at this point? Do we actually see a Houston Astros thing where not only Harbaugh potentially gets broken off, but maybe like an athletic director or something like that as well?
The thing that I will say is this is a proud institution, not just for its athletics, but for its academics and its standing in the world.
Yes, I will say, as much hate as I actually have against the team that you're wearing, and you for the one that I kind of pull for here, the academics are top notch. It's the fan bases of the athletic departments that we cannot stand.
And the coach. But and I haven't liked him since long before he got there. So let's just put that out there.
I wasn't a fan of him when he was a player back there.
Oh, yeah. So the thing I'll say is this. If more comes out that through the AD and everybody backing him that he actually did know, and they find the smoking gun, I think that's what's going to get him fired more than anything, because now that's an embarrassment to the university. And the one thing they won't allow is the embarrassment to the university.
Yes.
Which listen, I get it. That's why Urban was suspended for the Zach Smith thing. It wasn't about what he did or didn't say. It was the embarrassment that this all went down on his watch.
I will say that this is a very different story just because,
Yes,
the embarrassment on the embarrassment on the university, and then we'll move on here. Um, I would actually say is that because of the fact that it's Ohio State and Michigan at the forefront here, neither one of these schools are really hurting for money in terms of the academics. So if they lose a couple, if they lose maybe $5-10 million in the athletics for how this falls out with what happens with your coaches, they're going to be fine.
agreed.
They're still two of the top five, revenue generating schools in all of collegiate athletics.
Absolutely.
Well, we pivot now from college football, and we actually now go into a major piece of news in the NBA that actually we took place while we were on hiatus, and then the start of something the other night that a lot of people are still on the fence to. James Harden finally got out, Mike.
Yeah, he did. And if I may, Cleveland 70, Golden State 59, 9:54 left in the third quarter.
Well, considering they spanked that ass the other night.
It makes me smile when I saw Draymond Green got kicked in the junk. I'm such an asshole. Anyways, I found something we could talk about in the free fall section.
Man, I actually went back. Ironically enough, I should be saving for this for the off the rails, but it's like I actually ended up going back and watching where Barry Windham turned on Luger and Joan the Horseman in '85.
Oh God,
Boy,
we'll talk about that later because there's something on that end I want to bring up too.
Yep.
So
second half.
Yeah, exactly. So yeah, James Harden is now a Los Angeles Clipper. Now listen, 6 years ago that'd have been a hell of a team.
Yeah, it's I blogged about it while we were on actually the day I came back. It was,
Very good, by the way.
him, Kawhi,
Russ,
and
Paul George.
and Paul George. On paper, you would figure that this might be more talent than the 03 Lakers, which was Shaq, Kobe, Malone, and Peyton. And they flamed out in the finals. Mike, is there something wrong with me thinking this team's not even going to get out of the second round?
You're giving them a playoff appearance?
The West is so muddled there. I mean, especially with the play-in tournament, because they still count that as a playoff berth. I mean, if you don't win the play-in tournament and get into the top 8, yeah, you're back in the lottery, but still, it's
I think there'll be a play-in tournament team and they will lose in that round. Look, if this was 2016, 2017, I would be saying that they are the favorite to win the championship with those 4 players in the starting lineup every night. Because it's not, and it's 6 years later. Yeah, no, and wait, no again.
Yeah, because Kawhi's got his injuries. Paul George has been hurt. Russ is Russ, and I don't know how much Russ is going to be able to still shake the anomaly that was that Lakers season. And Harden's still a great player, but the problem is Harden's 34, and he's going to actually not get the ball enough, and he'll be out of there in 2 years anyway.
He's going to be retired in 2 years. The dude's getting to be 60. He's not LeBron.
Yeah.
He looked more like me a couple years ago.
The difference is when LeBron grows out his beard and tries to look 60, LeBron still plays like he's 25. When Harden grows out his beard and tries to look 60, he plays like he's 45. And I don't mean
LeBron. And let me. No, LeBron doesn't play like he's 25 anymore because he's going to be 47 or 48 by the time he's done.
You leave I would say Franco and Bartolo Colon alone.
We're talking about that in the second half of the show. What I told you on the way back
from Anderson, or take your pick.
No, we're about what I told you on the way up to the airport. The baseball league. We're talking about that in the second half of the show. So yeah, in all seriousness, I think it was a good move for Philly, as you have on the thing on the bottom there, that the Clippers are 0-3 and Philly's 3-0 since the move was made. And he was nothing but a distraction, and not for nothing. That dumb son of a bitch, he's been a distraction everywhere he's gone.
Yeah.
Except for Houston when he was the guy. And that's what he wants to be, is the guy.
Well,
And guess what, James? You're not as fucking good as you used to be.
Not necessarily, because remember, he was the third wheel for him, Russ, and KD in Oklahoma City, and then it was Durant that kind of got his way out, and then the dominoes started to fall, and he was the key piece there, and he knew that they weren't going to be able to build back around him fast enough. So yeah, he actually decided to get out of there and go to Houston.
Well, I thought he was the first one out of there because he was traded to Houston.
I don't think he forced his way, though. I think that was
no. I don't think he forced his way. I think they traded him because they knew they couldn't pay all three of them.
Yeah, but he forced his way out of Houston. He forced his way out of out of Brooklyn, and now he forced his way out of Philly.
This dude, look, he's been to one finals in his career, and he needed Durant and Westbrook to get there. He's been to like you said a few weeks ago. All he's done is won a couple scoring titles. And yeah, he won an MVP. And by the way, he should not have won that MVP. I have a meme, and LeBron had more of everything that year.
If they had changed the rule to where he couldn't actually, like, stanky leg or put the foot out on the jump shot, he doesn't win. He doesn't win that MVP. Because then he doesn't actually get to the foul line a record number of times like he did.
No, he doesn't. And, it bothers me that they do that crap too. Not saying he's not a good player, because he is, but he's just not worth my time.
Yeah, and we'll cycle back on this here in just a couple of moments. But I think on the Clippers. But let's look at the other side of that coin here. Is that Philly 3-0? There's part of me that's got to actually think now, this is the worst thing imaginable for Phillies, because now this is actually going to maybe make Joel Embiid happy and not want to get out. And this way Philly can start their rebuild, because I don't think Philly's really, even though with their assets and everything, I don't think Philly's going to be a legitimate Eastern Conference contender. And and you don't want to waste a year or two of Joel Embiid to be able to get yourself back to that championship level.
No, let me say this. You're not going to get there in the Eastern Conference, not with Damian Lillard in Milwaukee, not with what the Cleveland Cavaliers have done, not with what the Boston Celtics have done, not with what the Miami Heat have done. Everybody talks about the Sixers being one of the top 5 teams. I don't see it. You're not better than Milwaukee. You're not better than Boston. You're not better than Cleveland. You're not better than the Knicks.
I'm glad you brought up the Knicks, and it's not because I still think Embiid's going to find a way to get into New York. I don't think that. I still think that's going to happen, but this has got nothing to do with it. But you know what I look at right now when I see the Philadelphia 76ers? I see what happened with Brooklyn last year, is that they actually rallied after that cancer that is Kevin Durant got out and went to Phoenix, and then they still found a way to be able to start playing as a team and still got themselves into the play-in tournament when everyone
don't forget
they were going to finish like back end of the lottery at that point.
Well, also don't forget the afterbirth that is Kyrie Irving was gone too. So no, I think that's going to happen with Philly. First of all, Philly fleeced the shit out of the Clippers.
Yes. Yeah,
not quite what the Texans did to the Browns, but pretty close.
Yeah, and then I think one of those guys they already went ahead and bought out or something.
They let Danny Green go.
Danny Green is 40. Danny Green, add him to the Bartolo and Julio conversation.
Yeah, but you know what, Danny Green, he can still come off the bench and drain a 3 when you need him to.
He's very James Jones or Richard Jefferson. Like I'll give you that.
Do you think
RJ Jones? No RJ, stay on point, dude.
I was gonna say, do you think he's got a social media presence like RJ does? Because RJ's the absolute best.
Unless you actually get, like, starting to argue with Stephen A, and then they both end up looking stupid.
It's not hard to do when you're talking circles around Stephen A. Smith.
That is very, very true. Uh, let's put a pin in that one, and we'll come back to that here in a moment. Let's talk about the other part of what's in that headline there. Um, Mike, when did the NBA turn into paint by numbers?
Can I leave my answer for that for the translator and you give it to me then? No, in all seriousness, the courts are an fucking eyesore. They're terrible.
What
They're terrible.
who
The
was it?
The Indiana one.
Who was it?
What the
That
fuck was that?
well, didn't the league already say that like one team had to change theirs because they said that there was like a manufacturing issue or something with it? Was it Dallas?
The- no, Cuban's not that bad.
Somebody did, somebody with their court said that there was some sort of manufacturing issue with the fact that the court they took this court and they couldn't assemble it properly. Something wasn't lining up properly.
It's possible it was Dallas. I'll be honest with you. When I saw the court that the Cavs played on against Indiana, by the way, with everybody and their mother hurt that night, I threw up in my mouth a little bit.
But Indiana, I wrote about it earlier this week. Indiana's got
They're
a
good.
good young team.
They're a very good young team, and it was the court that made me vomit a little bit in my mouth. Not
It's just so hard to look at, especially with it literally looks
it's
like
god awful.
I mean, it looks like something you would put together on 2K, but you figure you change up the uniforms a little bit. I can't even not even fucking Tecmo NBA basketball or double dribble look that bad.
This is something out of a stoner's version of NBA Jam.
Even NBA Jam didn't look that bad.
No, NBA Jam didn't. I said a stoner's version, James.
Leave Ohio's new issue and me waking up to contact highs out of this.
I'd write something in there that'd just be edibles.
Yeah, that's what I'm afraid of here. But next,
yeah, but I'm just a fat kid anyway. Let's talk about the whole concept of this thing. We brought it up when they announced it. Willie was on with us. I still don't like it.
I still think it's the dumbest thing ever. If you're going to do something like, I mean, you couldn't even do it in the off season because you still have the World Cup.
You still have the World Cup. You're still getting ready for an Olympics in a couple of years. You still have the FIBA championships every year. But my whole thing is this: if you're trying to get people to play at the beginning of the year and, you know, help with load management and not have these guys sitting out so much, do something smarter.
Yeah, there's got to be a better way. This is not it. You know, basically you put a radicalized, you know, court design with your god awful shitty, you know, city edition uniforms.
The Cleveland ones are nice. I like them.
They're the font and everything. The land thing is terrible. The Playhouse Square stitching, I don't mind, but dude, keep it simple because it's only going to be around for a year. Nobody's going to buy these goddamn things
because they're too fucking expensive and they don't have any fat man sizes.
And they're going to go in a drawer or a closet, or they're going to go. You know what? You're going to see these things distributed to like third world countries, or they're going to sit in a box somewhere in a warehouse for the next 20 years until somebody decides to bring these back out again in 2050.
Yeah, you're probably right. My other thing about this is why make them wear the city edition jerseys? Let them do whatever they want with the jerseys for that. I don't get it, man.
I can't take the NBA seriously when You don't know. I mean, you can't even tell. It's been over a decade. It's been almost 15 years. I still can't watch an NHL game with the team wearing the dark jerseys at home. It's always home whites. Baseball does it. The NBA
Yeah,
used to do it for the long time. You wear the color on the
yeah,
wall.
no, I know. I don't get it either. I can't.
And yet, what's funny in the NHL, all their minor leagues, the AHL, the ECHL, the CHL, they all wear white at home. Nobody else does this shit. In the NBA, the D League, they wear the white uniforms at home.
Yeah,
I get the
no,
NBA
I
is trying to
get
be
you.
different and trying to be marketable, and this way you could actually put these god awful eyesores out there as we're getting into Jersey talk for a minute. But the tournament, on the whole, I think is it's going to be more and more convoluted because now you're actually going to start thinking pool play and how's this going to work into the regular standings. By the time Christmas comes around here in 6 weeks, nobody's going to know, nobody's going to care, nobody's going to be able to pay attention.
Yeah, no, I agree. And it's stupid that they're doing it this way. And it's stupid that they're doing things like this to try and get people to trying to get people into the season more. I understand wanting to take care of the load management thing early in the year. You want people coming to see your best players play, but I don't understand why in God's name they're doing it this way. I don't. The NBA Cup.
This or that, playing a little, you don't know Jack here. 82 games with the cup, 68 without it, and no load management because this way you're shaving 14 games off the season.
82 without it. They've done it for how many years?
But if you had to choose, because if you had 82 and you got load management and now you put this cup in, or do you eliminate the cup? Do you shorten the season to 68? And then this way the load management is already kind of built into it because this way now there's 14 fewer games. You keep the season over the same time. You give the players a little bit more rest with that. So it's not like you're shortening the time frame. You're still finishing up right on Father's Day at the latest with the finals. You're still starting in early November. I I could actually see getting rid of, you know, shaving a few games off. I mean, I understand other sports are trying to go longer. This just makes more sense for them to go shorter.
I don't know if it makes sense to go shorter, to be honest with you, Jim. It's like the whole thing with baseball, like, oh, cut down 162. No, been playing 162 games for almost 70 years. Give it up. The length of this season isn't the issue. The fact that the United States has no freaking attention span is the issue.
Last question here on this before we move on to our final topic before the commercial break. Um, could it also be that the NBA's got the shortest farm system really out there, and that's why they won't trim this down? Because the NHL's got three different levels, baseball's got 4 or 5 different levels of minor leagues. The NFL really doesn't, but you've also got practice squad and taxi players. So you've actually got, and then you also, you're running multiple guys at that position in the depth on the 53 man every week. And I actually could make a case. Does the NFL maybe, if you go to 17, the NFL should have expanded the rosters to maybe 60 or 65.
No, I think they should have expanded the rosters. Um, I mean, come on, Jim. For how many G League players actually make an impact every year? I mean, I think the Cavs are going to have one. I think Amoni Bates is going to be for real.
Maybe not this year, but in the coming years, yes.
Definitely next year. Um, but I don't think it has anything to do with that. I think it has everything to do with You have too many players who think they're marquee and they want to not be. Nobody wants to play 82 anymore. Just like no one wants to play 162 anymore. No one wants to play. And, the NFL is different. It's once a week. But how many guys play all 82 games in the NHL?
Yeah.
Probably more because hockey players are nuts. But having said that, the NBA's real issue with this isn't the cup. It isn't the. Adam Silver's got to find a way to tell these guys, listen, there are people who come to these games to see guys who they don't ever see. You need to play every night. So instead of taking games off, don't play 45 minutes a night. If you're on the second night of a back-to-back, play 25. Start the game. Do your load management in game. Don't do it.
Thank you. I was literally just about to say that, and then you stole my thunder here on that. And in the best way possible, because you want to fix the load management, fix the minute management. You don't fix the games.
Exactly. Not for nothing. There's a guy in the league who's still top 5, and he's pushing 40.
I mean, maybe not top 5.
And
he's certainly top 10, but
I think after what he's done the last few nights, he's still pretty damn close to top 5.
Let's see how it because I think
exactly.
But I think there's a certain young man in Indiana who's coming for that right now.
Oh, I agree with you 100%.
How could he?
I think there's
5 years old and already be the best facilitator in the game.
I don't know, but I tell you something right now. I think the dude in Cleveland's coming for a top 5 spot too.
You can get your pick of the litter there. There's a couple of guys that actually have the potential. One's right on the cusp.
I think Spida is angling to be in the MVP conversation this year, unlike last year, which was a joke. But I think they should do minute management, not game management. If you tell the guy, listen, there's 48 minutes, play 24. Second night of a back-to-back, if you played over 35 last night, play 24 tonight. But be in uniform, be on the floor so that the people who pay your fucking salary can see you.
Well, we shift from one league that does 80 games, and then we actually now go to a league that does 82, and we've got a lot of controversy that came out earlier this week for an ongoing story that just will not die and kind of needs to. There are reports coming out that there is now a second potential misconduct involving the Chicago Blackhawks. Still stemming from that same 2010 championship season. Not so much on that active roster, but still on, involved with that. And really the big difference is now they can't really, they threw Joel Quenneville essentially out of the league as the head coach. Rocky Wirtz now is dead, so you can't really crucify him, any more than you already have for throwing a whole bunch of money to get the Kyle Beach thing to go away. But Michael, even though Alex is not here to defend himself, how bad does this make the Blackhawks franchise look, if there's any validity to this one on top of the Kyle Beach scenario?
This looks so bad for them. They need their own 80s sitcom. Yes, that's a very bad shot at humor and a thinly veiled shot at Bill Cosby, but this is terrible. And I don't think Alex would defend him, first of all. I think Alex would say throw him to the fucking wolves.
Who would now, if there's any validity to this, knowing, as a Chicagoan, the dysfunctionality with the White Sox organization, what do you think he'd actually bag on more? Do you think he'd bag on the Sox, or do you think he, for how mismanaged their organizations run? Or would you think he'd bag more on the Blackhawks for this? For the second time, really, in about 3 years, this story's come out.
I honestly think he'd bag more on the White Sox because, as much as he loves hockey, Alex is a big baseball guy, and dude, the level of hate that he has for the White
Did you
Sox.
see their
Um,
announcer just left to go to Detroit?
I did see that.
I heard it on Olbermann's
Yeah,
podcast yesterday.
yeah, I look at it this way. I honestly believe this when it comes to Chicago sports. The Blackhawks, it's getting to the point where they need to get the equivalent of the NCAA death sentence.
Remember, you and I talked earlier this week, and I said I actually had something in mind that I wanted to run past you,
Yeah, go ahead.
and that was basically it. Could you see? I certainly you can't death sentence them because of the implication, the ramifications of all the players involved and everything, but and especially with the scheduling conflicts and everything that would actually end up coming out. And the NHL is thriving right now with 32. You're not going to go back to 31, although it really wouldn't be that much different. You take out Seattle and you take out Chicago, you insert Seattle, enough said. But could you actually see that? I mean, I don't, well, not so much could we actually see, but I could see, like, if they dropped an NCAA level hammer on the organization, a postseason ban in the history of pro sports.
I don't think they'll do a postseason ban. What I think they ought to do, and this is probably worse, is strip them of first round picks for the next 3 years. Because think about it. Connor Bedard is 18 years old. He was the number 1 overall pick. He is playing well out of the gate. Um, you know, he is doing well. He's the new face of the franchise. The problem is this crap keeps coming out. So if you really want to hammer them and you want to send them into the abyss the way they've done to these people, take their first round picks for the next 3 years. No first round pick in 24, nothing in 25, nothing in 26.
I'd have been happier with no pick in 22, in 23, 24, 25, because this way Connor Bedard doesn't end up going there to make it look like you're rewarding them for what happened with the Kyle Beach thing.
Now, here's where that punishment that you doled out would be a little too harsh. This is a cornerstone franchise. This is one of the original 6, right?
Yes.
They can't, in good conscience, do that. Now, again, good conscience obviously doesn't mean a fucking thing to the Blackhawks.
Now let me because I think you're going off on a little bit different direction. I'm actually not saying invalidate the pick, but I'm saying something like this shouldn't actually, if you're going to take away picks, it should have actually been done before the Connor Bedard thing came up on, because you could see that they were tanking. Then then everything started spiraling as they were tanking to try and, sucking hard for Bedard. And then they get rewarded
Gotcha.
as this is all coming out last year.
Okay. No, I see what you're saying. I'm more of the, okay, well, you can't throw the baby out with the bathwater now. You can't put the milk back in the jug. It's already happened. This next story comes out. You need to start taking away first round picks now. They're still going to be a quote unquote lottery pick for the next 2 years. They're not that good.
At least, yeah.
So you take away 2 lottery picks, you're going to send this team into a hole where, yeah, the owner at the time had passed away, but did they sell the team or does the family still have it?
No, the Wirtz family still owns it.
Force the family out of the NHL. There it is right there. It's basically, it's what Jimmy Haslam will have to do if this blows up in his face. He's going to have to sell the Browns. We've talked about it before. If you strip their future, if you go all Sonny Weaver as a punishment and you take their next 3 years first round picks and they get nothing for it, Bedard's not going to be ready to carry a team like this yet. They're in salary cap hell. There's your death sentence, Jim. Never mind a postseason ban. There's the ban. Right there. You're giving them no option but to suck for the next at least 5 years. Because it's not just 3 first-round picks they're losing. You're talking about the development of young players. You're talking about the ability to restock a team through free agency because their salary cap situation is garbage. There's the death knell.
Dis or dat number 2. 3 picks or 2 picks and then $10 million fine, but the $10 million fine applies against their cap number.
If 2 stories have come out, there's more. 3 years and the $10 million cap hit.
If another one comes out, I actually say, yeah, column A, column B, A squared plus B squared equals C squared. Yeah.
Dude, don't do that kind of fucking math on a Saturday night. What are you, crazy?
Pythagorean theorem, dude. We actually learned that at Brush. It's basic algebra. It's the hypotenuse of a right triangle. A squared plus B squared equals C squared.
Was a fucking music geek and a jock, Jim.
But anyway, yeah, this is and as good as the NHL season's been out the gate here, Vegas with starting off strong, Boston starting off strong. Gotta laugh at the there's people laughing hysterically because of the near record losing streak that the Sharks had to start the year.
I saw they finally won the other night.
They've won 2 in a row.
If we win again tomorrow, that's a winning streak.
Although my Sabres got shellacked tonight by the Penguins, but
see, the Rangers started off good too.
Yeah, it's my Blues are playing pretty well out the chute here. The Islanders are middle of the road. It's Toronto's not all that great, but you're not hearing really. The thing is you're only hearing 2 things out of Chicago right now. You're hearing Connor Bedard putting up these really good numbers on pace for 25 goals in his rookie campaign, 57 points at this pace. Not bad for a rookie. And now this.
It's bad, and it needs to stop. And unfortunately, I mean, you got this league with this. You got the NFL has had its issues with this in the last few years, and it's ridiculous. I mean, is there any really good news coming out of any sports right now in the Midwest? Chicago's falling apart between what went on at Northwestern and what's going on with the Blackhawks. You got the BS with Michigan and going on there. You got what's going on at Michigan State with Mel Tucker, as I see their interim coach on the sidelines, which we're not going to get into.
Take it a step further with Chicago. You've got the entire dysfunctionality of the Bears franchise. The fact that the city,
they're a fucking joke.
The fact that the city won't pay or add in anything for the renovation of Soldier Field, and they're trying to move to Hoffman Estates 30 miles away, and that's the equivalent of the Yankees leaving Yankee Stadium or the Rangers abandoning Madison Square Garden or the Red Sox leaving Fenway. You can't have something, I mean, when the Cardinals have actually moved to Busch, I mean, this is the 4th incorporation of Busch Stadium, so it's something that happened before. But I mean, we can't even really make the argument, this is the Browns leaving Municipal Stadium because that place was a hole.
I agree. And same thing with the Mets leaving Shea because that was, a dump. Speaking of dysfunction, now do you see why I always say look at the situation Ohio State quarterbacks are drafted into?
Yeah, I tend to agree with that statement. But just, the Cubs have a new man. The Cubs do David Ross wrong. You got the Blackhawks crap. You got what? I'm sorry, Alex, if you're going to watch this on the on demand. What good is coming out. Find me one piece of good news with any Chicago sports team because the Bulls had a players only meeting on opening night after getting shellacked. The Cubs crap, the Bears crap, the Blackhawks, abysmal. It is not a good time to be a Chicago sports fan, and here's the thing: it has very little to do with what's going on the product. Most of what you're seeing about in Chicago with the sports is happening off the field, which is not a
Yeah,
good
no,
sign.
it's not that on the field is much better, but at least it's not felonious. Yeah, I can't even begin to tell you.
It's just absolutely, can you think of really outside of the three teams leaving Oakland in the last few years? Can you think of one situation where a city has had this much off field distracting from everything going on field at one time? Or really, can you ever see a scenario where it was this salacious?
2010. Guards were crap. Browns were the Browns. And the decision. And again, that was all on field.
Wow.
And I'm not taking shots. I'm being serious.
No, because I forgot that all happened at the exact same time. But yeah, you're right. That's a lot of on field. This is
all off field.
Yeah, what happened here, being Cleveland, that was about 70-30 on to off. This is right now
Yeah.
about 85-15 off to on in Chicago.
Yeah. And the thing is, the off field, the main off court and on court thing were the same. That was the decision, of course. And it was because the on court product wasn't going to get him to where he wanted to go that the off court thing happened.
Yeah.
So, and then, of course, you had the Guardians in transition from, what was that, Eric Wedge to Manny Acta.
Yep.
And you had the Browns being the Browns. Well, this iteration of the Browns being this iteration of the Browns. So that's the only thing I can think of. I mean, don't get me wrong, New York sports has had its moments in years past. I'm going to go with this year for on-field stuff with both the Mets and Yankees finishing in the bottom third of the league.
Yeah, but there's a little bit of a caveat is that there's 9 different teams in that New York area. I mean,
That's
Cleveland
true.
only has 3. Chicago's got 5, and there's issues going on with all 5 of them.
Yeah. So yeah, I say we close the book on Chicago because it's going to make me want to throw things.
Well, ladies and gentlemen, that wraps up tonight's initial installment of the hat trick triple player, the triple play hat trick. We'll have that figured out here by the Ohio State game. We're going to take our 5-minute little commercial break here. We'll be back with you guys, and then we'll go a little off the rails for the last 15, 20 minutes, including the YZ translator. Everybody,
see you in a minute.
Stay tuned. Hacking up.
Yeah, I was gonna say it's a little much there.
That's well, it's the fallout. Like 3 days after I got back, um, I caught something like a small flu or something. So it's like, plus also now that it's getting drier outside, it's just it's just hacking. You can tell my voice has been a little off the last day or two.
Yeah, I could tell on the phone the other day too.
It's I feel fine. It's I actually did almost a record number of workout points. I did 4 miles today. I was telling you before we went on air. It's like I'm like literally 7 ounces away from or 7/10 of a pound away from getting to my weight loss goal from like before I flew down there. Just albeit two
Yeah,
weeks
no, I know.
late. I love the fact that I've actually scheduled my annual physical with my doctor. It's December 15th. So I got like 5 weeks to say, hey, you wanted me to lose 5? Here's 20.
Get him.
Yeah. So welcome back to the final segment of the show. And it's not quite time, but
Not quite.
the wheels are about to come off. There's a lot of grease on these wheels right now, Michael.
Yeah, I mean, next week, of course, we have episode 50. So I'm gonna keep all the baseball stuff for next week when we do our little
Oh my god, I didn't even realize next week is episode 50 because this week should have been it was about to be episode 50.
yeah, and
But we just needed a break last week.
dude, I was shot. Oh,
I
not that this
touched
was any
down
fucking better.
I touched down at 11:45. I deplaned at about midnight and I didn't get back to my car until about 12:20, 12:30. I was home and asleep by 1:30. And then I was
Yeah, you were
actually
flying.
Oh, I was well, I mean, 480 coming home at midnight, there were about 6 cars on the road. So,
Which for 480 is, like no one.
exactly. And it's and I fell asleep. I actually even shut the alarm off. It's and I only ended up going into work 15 minutes late. So I started at 8:45.
That ain't bad.
Yeah, it's I mean I still got, 5.5, 6 hours of sleep, although I had to still come home and do laundry. Wouldn't you know, I am still getting Ollie and Luna's hair out of some of the clothing, even after washing them twice now.
How's the sand thing going?
Oh, shut up! I had to open my mouth to Steph, didn't I?
That was funny.
That was funny.
Speaking of your trip, so I know I told you this on off the air, but I'll tell you on the air. I went Halloween as an Ohio State football coach, and I wore my replica 2014 championship ring at work with all the Georgia fans that
Did
I
you
work with.
because I said the hell with
Yes,
it, and I figured it was gonna be a display piece, so I ordered the biggest size that they had.
it fits my right hand or my left hand, excuse me. It doesn't fit my right hand. Um, and I wore it. Like I was on a conference call and I have the headset to plug into the laptop for the office. And right away, one of the ladies, oh, look at Mike. He's a football coach. I said, not just a football coach. They go, you're an Ohio State coach. I said, yep. And I come with the bling and everything. And they were like, wait, what? So, yes, the ring made an appearance at my job on Halloween.
I got the photo of Bobby.
Yes, I was trying to share that tonight and I can't get it to work because for whatever reason, I do the extra Chrome tab, which we can share through Restream.
I
And
should
it's,
be able to get that.
yeah, which because I should be able, I go to Drive and I saved it to Drive.
Trying to remember if it was you or if it was the missus that
It
sent
was
me.
in the Wise Guys chat, and the miss is sent it, but it was in the Wise Guys chat on that she's a part of on Messenger.
Okay, yeah, I'm on it. Got it.
By the way, the other day he's walking around with the little basketball guy in his mouth.
Who needs a puppy?
Exactly. Just real quick, 92-85, 96-90 Cleveland, 7:43 left in the fourth quarter. But there is Bobby in his Cavaliers t-shirt that Jim gave him that he wore to school. He was so pumped to wear that, dude. Because I wore my
nice little
I wore
haul
my
taken
Cavs
to
golf
the
shirt.
school every day.
Yeah, I wore my Cavs golf shirt that day to work. Because him and I like to match. Like, for instance, yesterday I had on the Ohio State golf shirt to work, and even though he was home because he wasn't feeling well, I had on the he had on the Buckeye t-shirt and what have you. So yeah, everybody's getting good use. I'll be sitting at work and all of a sudden I'll get the thing from Xbox saying that Steph's online and she's killing people.
It's because Omni-Man just actually dropped the other day. The invasions that because I got for those of you, I got Steph Mortal Kombat 1 on Xbox for Christmas, an early Christmas present. So yeah, Omni-Man just came out, and I don't know if anybody had seen the show, but a lot of the stuff is like straight out of it. I think J.K. Simmons is doing his voice in the game.
That's awesome.
She can actually go in and get the Jean-Claude Van Damme skin. The invasions thing that we were showing, it's now into season 2. So now Scorpion's not the final boss. Natara is. So that sucks, which means I have to beat up Megan Fox.
I won't make the joke.
No, you won't. Because
I'll leave it.
Because even though some of her other stuff has not been the greatest, and I can't stand MGK, she will always forever be Michaela Baines, and she will never not be able to do anything wrong in my eyes with the Transformers movies, the first 2 at least.
I still want to know how her white pants didn't get dirty in the fucking desert.
I have never heard a theater get that loud than all the guys catcalling when she was leaning over Bumblebee in the first one. That's when every red-blooded male, married or not, was in love with Megan Fox, even for 5 minutes.
Speaking of being in love with celebrities, did you see the Instagram thing I sent you?
You sent me a bunch of stuff, and I actually didn't get a chance to read all of it. But which one was it this time?
This was Anna Kendrick and her friends dancing at her birthday.
Oh, yes. Yeah.
I knew you'd see that. What was the other one that I shared to you that I wanted to talk about? Because I wanted to talk about it.
What's funny is one of the Hallmark actresses I like. She's also fantastic pianist and musician. And she had, I guess, done a get together. I don't want to say like a Comic-Con or something like that. And she posts a photo of her and like 6 of my other favorites, even though they're not all on Hallmark. And I'm thinking to myself, I need to be near this picture because this is like the shit that dreams are made of. Like,
exactly.
Danica McKellar's in that, like all grown up and everything. It's like,
oh,
dude.
Sorry, I was at the Panga guy.
I watched another one of those React quizzes, and Boy Meets World came up on it, and some guy actually said I would drive to whatever for Topanga.
Yeah. The one thing I wanted to bring up to you, we were talking about bringing it up in the second half of the show. I want to ask you a serious question about this college football season going into next year with the NFL. Why the fuck do you draft Caleb Williams? He hasn't beaten a good defense.
The same reason somebody took a flyer on Anthony Richardson. He played 4 games and he's out for a year.
I mean, come on, though. Dudes had 3 shots at Utah, couldn't get the job done. They had Washington by the short and curlies. Couldn't get the job done.
Perfect timing. We're going to be actually able to end this show here in the next 10, 15 minutes. And we'll be able to put that on to be able to see the complete demise of USC this year.
By the way, 104-92 Cleveland with 6:03 left in the fourth quarter.
The fact that they can actually beat them here and then fly across country 4 days later and go into their house and beat them as well.
That was the first time since Christmas Day 2016 they beat them in a regular season the other night.
Yes, sir.
38-3 final in Columbus.
No shock.
And scary scariness. Brock Bowers is back, by the way.
I saw that, yes. It's because I was watching about 5 minutes of that game.
They beat the piss out of Lane Kiffin.
And here's the funny thing in that, going back to that Cavs game, they're not holding anybody out. Everyone's in there. I mean, I don't see Draymond's only got 8. Clay's only got 7.
Draymond got thrown out.
Draymond
got run in the
other news,
apparently he got into it with Donovan Mitchell and he got run.
In other news, water's wet and sky's blue.
Yeah, no shit.
And I don't mean AEW's Sky Blue, who I'm in love with. Even though she had like Scooby-Doo gear on the other day.
Is that the one that's from down here?
No, that's Anna Jay. That's the one who's dating Jack Perry's kid, the one who actually got suspended with the, and he has still not been back on TV since Punk got fired.
I was going to say, we were talking about dysfunction in Chicago. We didn't bring up CM Punk for 1 second.
Yeah. Oh, funny thing is that in Chicago next, like in a couple of weeks, it's going to be Survivor Series, and there's talk that Punk could be coming back. Well, they're bringing back War Games, and I mean, they've been doing War Games in NXT for a while, but this is going to be the first time they've actually done it on the main roster. How cool is that going to be that Cody Rhodes gets to actually fight in the match that his dad created?
That's phenomenal. I forgot Dusty created War Games.
Yeah.
So the other thing I wanted to bring up, apparently, that movie about the Von Erichs is pretty friggin' good from what I'm reading.
Yes. Yeah. I actually cannot wait because there's like people are saying you can't recognize Zac Efron. It's like there's a bunch of wrestling fans, there's a bunch of wrestling fans who just want to actually see how MJF's going to look. It's no truth to the rumor that he will not be doing a kangaroo kick.
Nice.
Stop fraternizing with the enemy.
Fucking hilarious. Fucking embarrassing. That's the other thing I want to ask you about. Legitimately, have you watched any more Letterkenny since you've been home?
I have not because I've been sick and then was picking up things on work, but it's in my Google Play library to be able to start ordering. So I think starting first of the year. Oh, man.
Told you.
And we didn't even
get you.
Hockey stuff. My God, is Katie hot.
I told you. Wait till you meet Bonnie McMurray.
Dude, what are you doing to me? Can't be doing these things. Can't be telling me these things with the middle of a sitcom that's kind of based around hockey with hot sister and me being single going into the holidays again.
Wait until you meet Shorzy.
Wait, one of those wasn't Shorzy?
Well, he is, but you didn't meet Shorzy yet.
Okay.
Because Shorzy, it's the guy who plays Wayne. It's the one who created the show. Is the guy who played Wayne. And you never see Shorzy's face. Half the time you see Shorzy, he's naked, upside down in the shower, chirping at Riley and Jonesy. And the skids get funnier too.
Oh, man. Yes.
Kids get crazy funny.
I'm actually glad, now that actually means I got to start binging stuff. I still have like 2 seasons of The Rookie to finish. Now I'm gonna have to get into Letterkenny and start binging that because now the strike's over, so which means shows are gonna be coming back after the first of the year, hopefully.
Yeah, I saw that. Thank God.
Yeah. It's like I don't know how many more Tuesday nights I could go without, my FBI or Monday without my NCIS. It's like I'm starting to watch like more and more TV and it's like some of the Hallmark movies that are coming on or whatnot. It's like or like if I'm binging Arrow, it's like, oh God, there's Katrina Law. Not even so much for her, but it's like I need to actually see what they do with her and Jimmy this year. It's like, and I also need to see what they're gonna do now that Ducky passed away.
That's yeah. My two favorite Ducky facts. In an early season episode, Kate says to Gibbs, "What do you think Ducky looked like when he was younger?" And Gibbs smiles and goes, "Ilya Kulyakin," which of course was played by
Donald McCallum. Yep.
Donald McCallum and the Man from Uncle. But he wrote a song that has been
Yes.
stolen as the
Yes.
hook for next episode. One of the most famous opening hooks in rap history was a song written by Donald McCallum or David McCallum. That blew my mind when I first heard it. Now, of course, when he passed away, you saw it a bunch. But it's been sampled by 30 different rap groups.
Yes.
And still the best line in NCIS history. Whose grandpa are you supposed to be? That depends. Who's your grandmother? That's the greatest. But yeah, no, it's our hiatus. There was a lot of crap that went on during our hiatus, but the one thing I will say is this: I did take shots at the Browns quarterback on social media. I have taken shots at Desmond Howard on social media over the last week. I did, my whole thing with Desmond was basically this: you ran your mouth about Tressel years ago before anything was ever investigated. Shut up. I think the one I got to see what I wrote because the one thing I referenced his BS at the Heisman Trophy thing a few years ago. Where was it? Where is it? Yeah, I can't find it. Yeah, I can't find it. But basically, I made reference that, listen, you're a Michigan shill. You've proven it time and time again. Your biggest proof of it is what you said at the Heisman Trophy presentation a few years ago. Because we all know what the Michigan fan base would have been like had Herb Street said something for the years previous about them getting their ass kicked. And Charles Woodson today, another one needs a fist in the mouth.
Mutant League football.
Exactly.
Damn it!
Get out.
Now I want to go play that browser. I can do that.
Oh, that's right.
I was playing Tecmo Super Bowl at the office. I have the Browns at 4-0 right now.
I toyed with playing that tonight on here.
And remember, the Browns sucked in 91.
I was going out there on vacation then. I know 100%. There's one other thing I wanted to bring up in this whole little section here. What the fuck was it? Oh, Billy. Let's talk about Billy for a second, and then we'll get into the translator. What the fuck? Why is that fan base basically letting him teabag them over that game against Arizona? and a quarterback who, in the words of Lou Brown, will be bagging groceries next week.
I don't know. The Giants are running out of guy tomorrow who actually is still living at home with his parents. But anyway,
Let me put it to you this way. 8 years ago, this past week, Steven Matz, living with his parents, handed out candy on Halloween and then went and started Game 4 of the World Series.
yeah, I'll give you that. I'm not actually knocking Tony DeVito, DeVito or whatever his name is. But yeah, it was the fact that they were so starved to get any sort of positive effect out of him that they're latching onto it. Yeah, you know if you got you better thank your lucky stars the NFL doesn't do regulation like the soccer leagues do, because if you would have lost to Arizona last week, or worse yet, had you only beaten Arizona by less than 10, they would have actually thrown you to Canada or sent you overseas. They'd have sent you over to Frankfurt and left you there.
They'd have dropped you down a league, right?
Yeah.
You know, for somebody who hates soccer, you certainly know how that works.
Well, there's more and more people saying, that certain leagues need to actually start going to something like that. It's like, no.
Here's one for you. Miami hasn't beaten anybody good yet.
An hour and 43 minutes in, first sound effect. First and only.
Well, we were being serious at the beginning, James. I think that's why we were like that.
I probably deleted almost half the soundboard off because I figured
Why? Why?
Well, there were certain things I know I wasn't going to use, and it's like with the new format, there were not going to be as many opportunities to use them in certain points.
I will say this with Miami. Did you see the Tyreek Hill play again in Germany against Kansas City? I was done. Oh, speaking of the game in Germany and one of the players in it, congratulations to a Sexiest Man Alive finalist, Jason Kelce. And Kels, with that, how bad is it that Jason has less Super Bowl rings but a hotter significant other than his brother?
Yeah. They're both winning right now, because I tell you this much, the whole Travis and Taylor thing, it's not even so much it's being because the media is the one overplaying it, but all the stories that you hear coming out makes you like her that much more. Because the thing
Agreed.
is, you don't dislike her because she says and does everything the right way. It's everybody else that actually tries to detract from it.
Agreed.
You took a fucking photo with Bernie 3 weeks ago.
Really?
Yeah.
Oh, that's right. You're right. I remember now. That, and did you see his response to his brother saying he was getting the Kelly Green Eagles jersey?
Yes. Yep.
You can't have it. It's gonna be where it goes, in a trash bag in the basement. Fuck, Jason. Oh God. I love those two. I can't get enough of
He
it.
was walking where the Eagles were walking out. He had already taken his pads off, and then he actually walked all the way back across to sign something for a kid.
Oh yeah, absolutely. How about when he was screaming at that dude from the Cowboys? Did you see that?
That one I didn't see, but that'll actually I'll go looking for that one tonight.
Apparently, he was laughing in the dude's face. I know we're coming to the end of his career, so I mean, he's first ballot. You think, right?
You got to figure we're probably coming close to the end for both of them at this point.
Yeah, but you think Jason? Well, Travis is definitely first ballot into the Hall of Fame. What do you think it did? And listen, two first ballot Hall of Famers from Heights High. That's a big win for our hometown there.
Jason, if not first, probably second at the worst. But I think he's first, but I don't know if he's unanimous.
No, definitely not unanimous. Um, Travis will be unanimous.
Yeah,
Um, so yeah, and Jason has said he thinks Travis will get in before him. I disagree. I think Jason Kelsey will be a first ballot Hall of Famer. I think Travis is a first ballot Hall of Famer, and I can't wait till the speeches.
you know what? Could you actually see a scenario before you know Mr. President actually starts yelling at me? Um, do you see a scenario where Jason kind of walks away but doesn't officially retire or file his paperwork until Travis does, and they go in together?
No, I don't think he would want to stack the deck that way. He doesn't seem that type of person. I know,
It would be
I know
pretty cool, though.
it would be very cool. I know Kylie's after him to do it because she wants him to be able to play with the girls and be able to
Well, I mean,
move with
yeah,
his kids.
but it would be very much kind of like Brett Favre or Brady or something. It's that they walk away for a couple of years and then they don't. He doesn't actually file the paperwork until Travis does. So they basically
It's
retire
possible.
and become eligible at the same time.
It's possible. I think if he did that, the response when they introduced the Hall of Famers at the NFL Honors Super Bowl weekend would be insanity. Because you'd have to introduce everybody and then those two at the end.
Yep, it
And
would
who
be like
knows? By then, one of them could be hosting the show at the same time.
yeah. I mean, it could be something kind of like what WWE does is that when they announce the Hall of Fame, they always save like the Undertaker gets his own entrance or Rey Mysterio gets his own entrance or like this year, Bray
No, that would
Wyatt's
be
gonna do
cool.
his own thing.
Who's going in this year? You just say?
I think Bray Wyatt, but they won't start announcing those until January. Like right,
Yeah, because that's WrestleMania weekend, right?
yep, yeah. So
Okay.
they don't start announcing that until they start leading up to the Royal Rumble. Even though I don't even
Okay.
watch the product anymore,
Yeah,
the product.
that whole thing in Denver with The Rock and McAfee came across my timeline again the other day. I watched that because that was hysterical. But other than that, I think it's time for the president to send us off, James.
Well, Mr. President actually did us very proud. I actually was before I went out on my walk today. I did actually see him present the wreath to the Tomb of the Unknown Soldier and preside over um, the festivities at Arlington. And happy Veterans Day, even though we're in the waning moments of it for anyone out there. But band practice.
Would you shut up and just push the button already? No, God! No, God, please, no! 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 No!
It's the YZ Translator on the Wise Guys Sports Show.
I'm forever unclean.
Yes, we are forever unclean. And for those who have not joined us before, this is the Wisey Translator, the best segment of the show and the final segment of the show, where James and I give each other a name in or out of the sports world, and we react with the first thing that pops into our heads. Some of the Wisey Hall of Fame classics are Kyrie Irving being sing-song called a douche canoe by my co-host. We talked NBA before. Our good friend John Rice calling Joel Embiid a walking insurance claim. And of course, my rendering of Brett Favre in comparison to Sorrel Brooks' famous Boss Hog from the Dukes of Hazzard from the 80s. So, James, a little bit of a new format tonight.
We're still going to come in right around 2 hours, but that's actually where you're going to see as we progress. And now that we know how it's going to be laid out, First of all, we're going to get the restream graphic, for the intro video. We're going to get that fixed, or we're going to get something done here with that. If I actually got to scrap it and go a different direction, so be it. But so you're going to start seeing the show kind of come down a little bit closer to 90 minutes going forward here.
Yeah, and that's 2 hours with the break and the technical issue at the beginning. So it's more like an hour and 45, like where we were going to be, where we wanted to be. Plus, that first topic needed to be covered it's the biggest news going on.
Yep.
And I'm sure we'll hit some of it next week too when we get into what's coming up for episode 50 next week. So James, as I normally start the translator in giving you your word of the day or first word of the day.
Okay, it's been a while since I've actually used it, so I actually had to make sure I had the right button set.
I still have it if you need it.
No, I got it.
So James, I'm going to go with a more current thing we've spoken about. And your first name in the YZ translator for tonight is Draymond Green.
To be the man, you gotta beat the man, unless that man is me, which means I'm gonna kick you in the junk, and Steven Adams still ain't played this year.
And for those who don't know, Draymond got bounced for shoving Donovan Mitchell tonight in his home court.
He's a limousine riding, jet flying, wheeling dealing, dick in a coffee cup photo taking son of a bitch. And there is still no truth to the rumor that he sent that picture to Aisha Curry.
I think he did. Draymond and his buddies are down 11 with 1:28 to go in the fourth quarters. James, who you got for me there, bud?
Michael, oh God, it's I just got the notification. LSU smacked Florida around tonight.
That
Michael
was close at one point, by the way.
at one point. Michael, I wonder if you've actually seen the news really in the last 24 hours with what's actually come out, and I'm not trying to hit below the belt, but it's pertinent here as a former Ohio State receiver in his own right. Michael, your first name in the YZ translator this evening is Michael Thomas.
And they called your uncle a fucking cancer. What is wrong with you, you dumb bastard?
To think he was one of the more coveted receivers in football just not that long ago, even coming off an injury where he missed a whole year. And now this.
Yeah, he's an idiot. Jim, some breaking news a few minutes ago. Kelly Oubre was struck by a car walking in Center City, Philadelphia. He's in stable condition in a hospital. And this is from Woj. This is not just Twitter. He's expected to miss significant time due to his injuries, but those aren't considered to be season ending. So, of course, thoughts, T's and P's, as Pat McAfee would say, to Kelly Oubre Jr. and his family going through this now. It literally just popped across on my phone as I had a Facebook thing come across, and that was it.
And the second you mentioned that, I actually was the first thing that popped into my head was that tragic story that we saw just earlier this morning about the former NFL defensive back who was killed with 600.
When I saw the last name, I had a moment.
Yeah,
because I thought it was Joe Hayden.
Right.
And I was like, wait, what? And I went in, of course, as a Clevelander, my level of anxiety went down because of who Joe Hayden is. But at the same time, that's absolutely terrible. Somebody ran a red light.
Yeah.
It's horrific. All right, so let's get to something funny and happy to get on the last one here. James, your second name in the YZ translator is Myles Garrett.
You better make yourself real comfortable down there because you're going to be there all night.
You went Julius on him. That's great.
Left side, right side, don't matter what side.
Strong side. All right, real quick, 30-second hypothetical. If he's Julius, who's Gary Bertier on that defense?
Take your friggin' pick right now. Za'Darius, they had 7 sacks last week. I don't care what NFL team you're playing against. The way that they've been piling up sacks and it doesn't matter how bad the Arizona Cardinals are. You hold an opponent to 59 yards of total offense.
That's saying something.
That's ridiculous. Even though there were times that looked more like Ohio State against Northern Arizona than the Cleveland Browns against the Arizona Cardinals.
Does Northern Arizona have a football team? Then again, are the Cardinals a football team?
But Kyler's back tomorrow.
Call of Duty comes out this week. He ain't playing. Or do you think he's on the Mortal Kombat thing now?
I think Kyler is going to remind us a little bit more of Orange Cassidy than anything. And I love Orange Cassidy too, so I can't believe I'm actually making the comparison.
Nice.
Michael, to close things out tonight, your second name in the YZ translator, Craig Counsell.
Homeboy got paid. And he did the Mets dirty because the dumb motherfucker they got, I can't even do it. We'll talk about that next week. But yeah, I'm Scrooge McDuck. And I got to tell you, Screech Council's always left a sour taste in my mouth, whether it was scoring the winning run in 1997, his ugly batting stance, or the fact that he just used Steve Cohen to run the price up on the Cubs.
Before we sign off, favorite managerial hire that we've actually seen so far?
Stephen Vogt.
I was going to say Counsell, Stephen Vogt, who else did we
Ron
see?
Washington. Ron Washington to the
71-year-old ass.
Look, he should have never gotten fired by Texas. That was a front office problem. Back-to-back World Series appearances, and the sheer fact that you can't get him a right fielder because Nelson Cruz had a fucking play out there cost them a World Series. Oh, speaking of,
Bob Melvin moving basically down the bay.
no, doesn't matter. But hats off, 2023 World Series champion Texas Rangers. Good for them. I wanted Arizona to win because fuck Scherzer, but you know.
But Bochy first ballot and unanimous at this point.
Yeah, Bochy's a first ballot Hall of Famer. If they don't go all in for, we'll talk about this next week, but I think if they don't go all in for Jordan Montgomery, they're not going to repeat.
They don't really even care about repeating. They got the one.
Yeah, that's basically what it is. I think that's.
You and I would actually kill right now to be in the position that they're in. Get one and then suck for the next 10 years. Just give us one.
No, because I'm got one and sucked for the last 30.
Yeah, but at least you've got one. I mean, really outside of my Blues and the Cavs, I was way too young to actually remember the Islanders dynasty. I've got 2 in 45 years.
86. 02, 14, and 6. So I got 4. And I only have 4 because Ohio State is 2 in my lifetime. So, yeah, no, I get it. But at the same time, I would love to be the Dodgers, where every year you got a shot. You just got to get it done, and that's on the players, on the front office.
Yeah, well, the difference is that with the Dodgers right now, it's the scenario of how the Cavs were after LeBron came back. Is that you're the best team in the worst division in that there is. I mean, they won that thing going away, and then Arizona smacked them around in the playoffs.
Well, the baseball playoffs, kind of like the NHL, if you get hot at the right time,
Oh, absolutely.
that's who normally gets to the World Series. You very rarely see a team go wire to wire, winning a division, staying consistent, especially now with the layoff, with the new postseason setup. We haven't had a team that's had a bye in the 2 years of it get into the World Series. Everybody's played in that wild card round.
Yep.
The Phillies and Astros. No, the Astros had the bye.
Last year, you're correct.
The Astros had the bye. But the Astros are a bad comparison because they were the best team wire to wire. So we've seen it 1 out of 2 years. But if you look at the American League and the National League last year and both leagues this year, you're talking about teams that got hot. Arizona had no business beating the fucking Phillies. None. Because I think they finished even with the Dodgers this year, or just about. They played them tight all year. They had no business beating the fucking Phillies.
But go ahead.
I would say, so speaking of that last bit of topic, next week, believe it or not, is episode 50 of The Wise Guys. It is going to be a Friday episode. The next 2 weeks, we come to you on Friday. And then we'll have one the beginning of December, and then we're going to take a little hiatus.
So, real quick, the schedule that Mike and I agreed to is that next weekend is the AEW pay-per-view. I'm going to be able to get together with my best friend Adam. So that they're doing that on Sunday night instead. Saturday night instead of Sunday. So we're coming to you live next Friday night, and then the week after that, we're coming to you on Black Friday, which will be our Ohio State Michigan preview. That'll be the majority of the show, if not the whole thing. And then we'll actually do 3 straight episodes in December, and then I want to say the Saturday before Christmas, and we're not talking, like the 23rd. That's going to be our final episode for the year. So Mike and I have kind of come to the executive decision here that we're going to actually take the break that whoever decided that people don't get this after they get out of school and they get 2 weeks off for Christmas, they get punched in the mouth.
I agree with you. So we're talking the 17th and 24th, the last 2 weeks of November, we'll come to you live. And then we'll have the 2nd, 9th, and 16th of December, with the 23rd and 30th being off. What do you say? The 16th, we'll do the CFP preview?
We'll do the CFP preview, but that's also going to be our holiday free-for-all. So anyone who wants to come on absolutely can. It'll be part of our best of. I'm already going to be starting to work on some clips and everything. So we're going to probably we'll go long form that night. I mean, at that particular point, we could go 3 hours if we wanted to.
Yeah, it sounds about right. But next week, with the 50th episode of The Wise Guys, we're going to take you back to the beginning. And the first hour of the show will be a very special Big Rican baseball show with The Wise Guy. You know what? We're going to call it The Wise Guys baseball show, because Big Rican is now going to be, if I can get the damn computer to save shit. I had a 45-minute episode done in the bag, destroying the New York Mets for this past season. And not really destroying them, but taking out some of my frustration on them and on Bill Cosby. But I look up and the fucking Chromebook didn't save the episode. So Big Rican's going to be once a month. I'm going to find time, and I'm not going to tell you when it's going to happen, because every time I tell somebody I'm going to do it, I end up either falling asleep with Bobby or just being too shot to do anything. So last Saturday night, when Jim and I took the week off, I said, you know what? Let me put him to sleep. Let me give it a shot. And recorded great. Not so much. So the first hour of the show next week will be a baseball breakdown. We will break down what happened at the end of the season with the World Series. We'll give you a little look into the hot stove, which has officially started, especially with all the managerial moves. And we'll give you a little prediction of what's going to come for this hot stove season and some of the biggest topics of the hot stove season. And then we'll get you the second hour. The second half will be other topics, the Wisey translator, what have you.
It'll be a lot more abbreviated Wise Guys show, but it's going to be like when we had the Big Rican show a couple of months ago.
Yeah, and then of course we have the big one, the preview of what may very well be number 1 versus number 2, the final Saturday of November up in Ann Arbor when Ohio State goes up to the Big House to take on the Jim Harbaugh-less Michigan Wolverines.
And quite honestly, there might be, depending on what else happens, it could be the game that breaks college football for at least the next 18 months.
I'm going to look on FanDuel to see the over-under on how many fights.
That'll actually come up next week.
Yeah, absolutely. And then in December, we'll have, the first show in December will be the night of the Big Ten championship game. The second show in December will be knees deep into this NBA Cup and everything else, and we will have the CFP ready. And then we decide to do an abbreviated CFP preview the 16th, or if we what have you. We've got a lot of content coming, and then we're going to take the holidays off, and we come back to you January with the 2024 edition of the Wiseys. We need to talk about wardrobe for the Wiseys, James.
I know my suits fit.
I'm not wearing a fucking tie.
I can't either.
No, I was thinking what we talked about last year.
Oh God.
I think we should.
I'm going to start window shopping this week. Half of my Christmas list is already done.
I will actually shave both my face and my head for the Wiseys this time.
I got a good razor for you. You liked how that one came out.
I found my Harry's ones.
Nice.
Yeah. I get 12 shaves a piece, and it's 4 of them for $9.
I still like 40 cents a month on
I
blade.
know you do. I know you do. But as always with us and all the plans we make,
Sometimes maybe good, sometimes maybe shit.
we don't know what's going to happen, even with the new format.
So we wanted to trim it down, and we still ran 30 minutes over.
You know what, though? Again, the big thing with that was talking about what's going on with Michigan.
Yeah, and at least now you guys know what the format is, and we're gonna get it right by the first of the year. By 2024, everything's gonna be ironed out. You're gonna see this 90 to 100 minutes tops every week out.
Because I'm going to be 45 in January, and I need to start sleeping at night.
Yeah, I'll be lucky if I go to bed before 3 a.m. today. Warframe's calling my name again.
I give myself 20 minutes.
11:30. Raising Cane's for dinner or Raising Cane's for early lunch?
Jim Everett.
Shut up.
We'll see you guys next Friday.
Have a great night, everyone. No intro video. Restream. Get your shit together.
Fucking embarrassing.
We'll fix that by next. We'll fix that here in the next week or two.
We'll see you Friday.
Good night.